Billionaires may be morally corrupt, opportunistic thieves corrupting our democratic republic, but they ain't stupid.
I'm very rich.
Well, most of them. This is Mark Levin, a pathetic Trump apologist calling for billionaires to pony up $500 million that Trump owes in fines and interest. He goes on to say, why are there no Republican multi-billionaires offering to lend Trump the funds to file his appeal in this outrageous case in New York State? Because he's hated by everyone? Are none of them liquid enough to help or join with others to help? This is an outrage.
Well, I voted for Nikki Haley because I was voting against Donald Trump.
And what propelled you to get to this point?
I'm 74 years old. I've lived in a constitutional democracy all my life. I want to remain that way, and I want my grandchildren to grow up in one.
You're worth millions. You could write a check. But this is further evidence. It's not only Trump who is corrupt to the core, but every one of the billionaire Republicans believe that there are different laws that apply to them.
He is probably going to have to liquidate assets, and I think it is going to put tremendous pressure on the Trump organization, and there's a risk that it all begins to cascade.
And he's up against the clock. For now, he has until late March to come up with the funds. Otherwise, the New York Attorney General could begin to seize some of his assets. On March 18th, Trump's lawyers said he has been unable to obtain a bond to guarantee payment, despite negotiating with some of the largest suretors in the world. So what options does Trump have to finance this mounting bill?
So let's review quickly why Trump is in so much financial trouble. Trump's company has ignored appraisals and manipulated numbers to inflate the value of his properties, such as golf clubs and office buildings, sometimes to absurd heights. The most blatant exaggeration was the listed size of Trump's apartment in Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. For years, Trump valued it at 30,000 square feet, when in reality it was 10,000. That's not a mistake. Trump did this and other frauds for one reason: to borrow money based on the value of his properties. It's like if you went into a bank to borrow money and you lied about the value of your home as equity, or lied about having a job. It's a crime. And Trump's lawyers keep saying, but there's no victim. But they're wrong there. If a business or you don't pay your taxes, for example, is there a victim? You could say that everybody who did pay their taxes and followed the law is a victim. So here are the questions that Levin has unintentionally brought to our attention. Why would billionaires, or anyone for that matter, want to bail out this guy? And why did Levin and others try to protect him? There's overwhelming evidence that Trump is a fraud. I mean, hundreds of people and businesses over the years will attest to Trump not paying his bills, even and especially his attorneys. By the way, Rudy's going to be selling off his property soon as well.
The New York Post speculated that maybe Trump's going to have to get creative with properties, because we know Trump's a billionaire, but a lot of his money is tied up in real estate. The Post writing that he's got properties in Manhattan, Westchester, and the Hudson Valley, even his iconic $348 million Trump Tower, which, by the way, I think that's undervaluing Trump Tower, could be on the chopping block. Do you see that happening over the next 25 days?
No.
Did nothing wrong. Look, it's no coincidence, and I'll say it. They know by looking at his statements of financial condition that this guy is worth a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars. And that didn't even include his brand, Martha. But what they're trying to do between this case, between my last case, is put him out of business. It's not going to work, number one. Number two, what they're doing is a scare tactic. Unfortunately, they picked the wrong guy to pick on, in my opinion, because he's strong, he's resilient, and he happens to have a lot of cash.
Trump's circle says he's got the money, and then they say he doesn't. And while seizing his property will take time, it seems a certainty that Trump will have to make some tough decisions.
You know, I decided to look over again these charges against Donald Trump in all these jurisdictions. It seems to me if you're going to go after a presidential candidate, a former president, that you ought to have something more than this statute. But the reprobate who's the attorney general is in front of a reprobate who's the judge, who had a reprobate for the law clerk, and you can see the problem.
Yeah, Marky, I see the problem. You're a lying sycophant. Levin, by asking billionaires to pony up, begs this question: is everybody who surrounds Trump corrupt? And could prosecuting Trump be like that thread you pull off a sweater that causes the whole thing to unravel? I mean, look at the list of Trump's friends and associates who've been arrested and imprisoned. There's Steve Bannon, who stole money from a charity designed to help build the wall. Then Trump pardoned him. You got Peter Navarro. You got George Papadopoulos, Roger Stone, Rick Gates, and Paul Manafort, who was my favorite. Manafort was working for Russian oligarchs and Ukrainian dictators, and when all that fell apart, came to the United States and offered to run Trump's campaign for free in 2016. What's the first thing he did? He had the Republican National Committee pull the support for Ukraine. Why that summer? Well, guess what? He's back. Trump's bringing that same guy who went to prison and he pardoned to run his campaign again.
He dug up phony criminal statutes to go against Trump after he was in the presidency.
Mark Levin is a pompous worm of a person who rode on Limbaugh's shoulders to a shitty little right-wing fiefdom, but Twitter will have none of it. Why can't the billionaire help himself? Or this, because they won't get their money back. Or this, maybe because Trump is a terrible credit risk. The truth is this. Everyone knows who Trump is, and everyone knows that this is true.
Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
Here's a little nugget of Trump's history and why it may portend bad things for him and possibly all of us. Let's start with tiny fingers. Trump has regularly lied and broken laws over the years, and the fact that he has skirted jail time has empowered him. That same hubris got him the GOP nomination. But why did Trump run for president? He didn't think he would win. He was trying to build his brand. Back then, he was in financial trouble, and most of that trouble came from Trump doing what New York State has successfully proven. He's a liar and a fraud, and this latest charge is the one that may hurt him the most.
It's not just the dollars that have to be reimbursed that are significant for the Trump organization. They're going to likely have difficulty obtaining financing. People who do business with them may be uncertain for both financial reasons and even reputational reasons.
Trump, the current Republican frontrunner in the 2024 presidential election, has denounced the case as a partisan abuse of the justice system.
Will appeal, will be successful, I think, because, frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone.
The real question here isn't whether or not Trump can get the money, but from where will the money come?
We don't need American banks. We have all the funding we need out of Russia.
It's possible that the properties he owns are already underwater, meaning he owes more than they're worth, which would explain Trump's extreme consternation over the financial part of these indictments as opposed to him possibly going to jail.
A New York State judge just ruled that he's crooked as you could get, and a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man.
So who will lend Trump this money, and what will that person, institution, or country want in return? $500 million is a lot to lend without something in return. And there's a good chance that with the underwriters out of the picture, it very well won't be a loan, but a gift instead. But nothing will be given to Trump without some expectation of a favor in return. Bannon stole millions. The Saudis gave Jared $2 billion, and the Chinese millions to Ivanka. Now Trump is saying, come on, everybody, where's mine? What will happen to James, Bragg, Jack Smith, and other prosecutors if Trump wins the electoral vote and he gets into office?
It's going to be a bloodbath.
You really have to ask?
Who's with me? This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Am I wrong?
Damn right.
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
Follow, like, and hit notifications as Really American keeps you up to date on the latest Republican cult lie in this very important year. For Really American, I'm Chip Franklin.